of a poor, uneducated man, Donald Trump has recently been unindicted. Sorry, not poor, uneducated man, poor, uneducated child. Donald Trump has recently been indicted again. And how many counts?
Again, yeah.
Tell me what you know about this, because I'm kind of up to date, but also not as up to date as you are probably.
Sure. So, so Trump was indicted. This goes back to the documents thing in the beginning of the year, where Trump has taken a whole bunch of it's stolen a whole bunch of documents from the from when he left the White House, and I'm trying to remember the actual organization that is the it'll come to me here in a second, but it's but basically the government said, hey, we have some missing documents, we think you have them, can you turn them in? And he said, no. Pretty please, no. Pretty please, all right, well, here they are. But then he kept some. So that's kind of where it all comes from. And so there's going to be a lot of people that are going to try to compare this with Joe Biden, because Joe Biden also had a similar issue where he had documents from his time as vice president at his residence. But the biggest difference between the two of them is when asked to return it, Joe Biden said yes and didn't make a big deal about it. And Donald Trump tried to keep them. And I think there's some evidence that he might have even tried to use them to enrich himself as well.
I mean, you need to pay off that debt that he's got. I mean, my boyfriend might call it his business strategy debt maxing, and Donald Trump is great at debt maxing. But I think like it's funny to see that like all this stuff has happened, but he still has all these supporters that are like, yes, Donald Trump 2024. I'm like, are you sure about that? Like, this is what you want? Like, we've never had and not to say like our presidents don't commit crimes. I just mean we've never had a president commit as many crimes so blatantly and everything is completely fine.
Yeah. I mean, I say this episode about me going through roll for it all, every week. But yeah, like, I don't think this is going to harm Trump. This has been a long time coming. And like, so it wasn't surprised. Trump told us the day before that he was going to be indicted, and he's been setting up the whole, oh, this is a witch hunt, they're trying to come after me. He started blaming this on woke justices or some bullshit like that too. But I don't think this is going to hurt Trump, at least in the Republican primary. It's certainly not going to help Trump, especially since Ron DeSantis is such a black hole of charisma. But when I go out in like rural Florida, like I do see DeSantis stuff, but I see way more Trump stuff than I see DeSantis stuff. It's not even close.
I mean, and DeSantis' poll numbers are going down, aren't they? I mean, I think that's what we said earlier when we were looking at them. They're going down nationally, and they're probably going down in Florida as well. We described him earlier, like before we started this podcast, we've like described Ron DeScrantimonious DeSantis, as Donald Trump likes to say. He
actually likes to call him Rob.
What does he like to call him?
Oh, he calls him Rob all the time on Truth Social.
Rob?
Yes. I don't know if it's on purpose, but I think it has to be. Instead of Ron, he'll put Rob.
That's a power play on Donald Trump's move. But but either way, like we said that Ron Dictator DeSantis was like losing polling numbers, and we're not even close to the start of this election at all. So for him to already be losing track to run on is kind of, it doesn't look very good for him, especially since we initially called him the moderate Republican. That's kind of what he was initially. Like, that's how he marketed himself as, right?
When he was first running for governor, I mean, there's a lot of different steps to Ron DeSantis. So when Ron DeSantis was running for his House seat, that was one video of him reading The Art of the Deal to his, at the time, infant child, and using like, I guess, little playing blocks, I don't know what to call them, to build a wall. And then when he ran for governor the first time, he kind of was like, I'm the moderate Republican, I might be Republican, but I actually care about the environment. Please ignore all the environmental disasters that are about to happen underneath my administration. And he kind of started becoming, he started seeing a little bit of the fascist in Ron DeSantis towards the end of that term, especially when it came to dissent, getting rid of Andrew Warren, the DA in Hillsborough County, for basically saying that he wasn't going to enforce DeSantis's, what was it? It was his it's one of his anti-LGBT or anti-critical race theory laws. I forget which. And actually, the Florida court said that he wasn't allowed to remove them, but said they lacked the ability to force DeSantis to actually keep the guy in power. But we started seeing a little bit of those fascist tendencies before in the time leading up to his reelection, and ever since he's won reelection, he's just really dived feet first, head first, whatever you want to say, into the anti-woke bullshit craziness, and really ignoring a lot of serious problems in Florida. And starting to people like, especially since he's now like, the presidential cycle's kind of started, mainstream media has really kind of been covering a lot of the shit that, if you were paying attention in Florida, you already knew about, but now it's starting to get a wider or a bigger megaphone, so to speak. And so people become more aware about it, more educated about it. They're actually getting to know the guy beyond, outside of his controlled bubble. And it turns out that Ron or Rob is kind of a douche, and he sucks at his job.
Well, also, like, he, not even 2 weeks ago, he passed a bill in Florida that prevented like any illegal immigrants from working. I don't know if it was 2 weeks ago. It was in the last month or so, maybe like a little bit longer ago. But it went into effect, and there's already farms on Florida that have brought in fruit because white people don't want to do those things, or not even white people. People that are legal immigrants don't want to do that. You know what I mean? It's like they don't want to do that job, and like now I think Florida's economy is going to suffer severely, and that's going to be another downturn for Ron DeSantis, Ron or Rob or whatever the hell his name is.
Yeah, like there was actually something this week about a couple of Florida congressmen basically having to play, I don't know if you want to call it defense for him, because the farmers who campaigned for him, who voted for him, it's a good case of the snake biting its own tail, but being very upset about the negative impact of these policies. And honestly, the policies were crazier beyond just, hey, you can't hire illegal immigrants, which regardless of how I feel about it, I understand it. But it even included stuff like, hey, if you are transporting an illegal immigrant, that is a crime. So you could pick someone off the side of the road and that's hitchhiking and say, yeah, I'll drive you up to Walmart, no big deal. And if that person turned out being a legal immigrant, you could be arrested. It
could be as simple as your friend, and you get pulled over by the cops, and your friend, you didn't even know that your friend was an illegal immigrant. They'd kind of get fucked in that situation. But it's going to be fun to see the downfall of DeSantis. And what's weird is, like, I've seen clips of him and he literally has no personality. Like, he might be a bot.
Yeah, well, it's clear that, like, he's just not ready. Well, it's not even that he's not ready. It's just he's not equipped for a national stage where, people aren't, he's not in a position to basically create a friendly environment for himself. Here in Florida, Republican Party in Florida has done a really good job as far as consolidating power and basically there's very few Democrats in the state legislature in Florida anymore. You know, it's just Republicans the whole way up outside of a couple areas. And then most of the areas that would have Democrats, they've basically gerrymandered them. So that way they have no Democrats, or they have, you know, they have fewer than they previously did. Try to remember, there's one Democrat.
Sorry? I gotta cut you off because we got less than a minute left in this Zoom call. So we'll be right back, folks.